I guess I'm going to do a shameless plug right here, Jeff. I can't
Here
help
we go.
myself. But over the weekend, man, I was so happy for him. A friend of mine, and I know he's become a friend of yours, who Brian Danielson recently called the best independent wrestler in the United States.
What?
Friend of the show, Adam Priest, recently got his first taste of AEW TV. Now, you've probably seen him on the program before, but this was a little different. You know, recently he was teaming with JD Drake in a losing effort against FTR on Collision. And then on Dynamite, he got into a little pull apart brawl with Adam Copeland and Christian Cage and FTR. And the whole Ring of Honor locker room was separating them. And that gave Priest an opportunity to get a little revenge on Dax Harwood from the previous Saturday. And that led to Dax issuing a challenge. And then on this past week's Collision, Adam Priest had to find a partner, and find one he did. The nephew of the Dynamite Kid, Tommy Billington, decided to tag with Adam Priest. They had a barn burner match with FTR. I don't think there's been any official reports that Adam Priest is even under contract to AEW, but certainly looks like maybe it's heading in that direction if he's been given promo time and he's getting some storylines. I mean, he's having matches on TV in prime time. I think this is a big deal from a Southern indie guy, because Jeff, you and I have talked about this before. Like, there are hubs where you can really get attention. I'm talking about the Northeast and other areas, but it feels like a guy from Alabama or Tennessee or Georgia or Mississippi, sometimes they struggle to get spotlight on the national scene. Adam Priest has seemingly done it. I wanted you to speak, because I know we got a lot of great feedback last week about the character work and how to get yourself over and how to establish that. I heard from independent wrestlers all over the world, including Matt Cardona, who said, "Hey, if you don't listen to me, listen to Jeff Jarrett." So I wanted you to sort of piggyback and pick up our conversation from last week. Why do you think Adam Priest, after all these years of having a reputation on the Southern Indies as being one of the best, is finally getting his flowers in AEW?
Why is he finally getting his flowers?
Well, is there any advice you can
No,
give anyone listening to this who says, "Hey, how did he get there? I want to get there"? Because I know that we talked last week, and Adam Priest has in large part portrayed mostly heel, probably because he's a piece of shit in real life. But that's a story for another day.
But yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, I know that standing out as a heel is something we discussed last week. How do you get noticed as a heel? And you referenced social media, and we had an in-depth conversation that I think a lot of people paid attention to. And then right before our eyes, here's a guy who's doing exactly what we talked about in terms of he was on the independents and now he's on TV. That's the leap a lot of people, like another friend of our show, Big Ben Bishop. I know he was hopeful that he was going to get a look at the WWE tryouts, and for whatever reason it didn't work out. But are there any more Double J nuggets you can pass along as we're seeing some of these guys start to climb the ladder a little bit?
Well, I was about to answer my own question. Like, now, why did Adam go from, and I do like, but also almost dislike Southern Indie, because it kind of brushes him. But if there is one guy that has a Bama Southern draw, that has, I'll just say it, the it factor, got the glue on him, he just needed an opportunity. But getting an opportunity, I go back to the simple definition that the basketball coach told me way back. What's the definition of lucky? Oh, that is when preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah,
and a couple of years ago, that was 3 years ago at Chicago All Out, we'd come back from Wembley. We needed somebody to get thrown through a table. Satnam Singh walked out on stage. Who did he grab around the throat? Not stretched, not ready, not nothing. But Adam took a choke slam through a table at an event. And I'm highlighting this because you have to, and people hate this word nowadays, but I kind of ingrain it as much as I can without pushing it too far, because I have pushed my kids too far at times, is that you got to go through the grind. And I'll tell you another story that to me almost is in a very much, when you just said this, kind of a microcosm. It was about, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 months ago, Pro Wrestling Entertainment. Jason James used to be, I'll call it Don West protege, but I've worked with Jason off and on. He was he's helped me, been one of my right-hand men for years, but he runs shows around here over in Ashland City, and Adam drove up, got a speeding ticket, but got out of it. That's a whole nother story.
Because he name dropped Double J,
which I think I love to,
which is one of the best Double J stories of all time. So let me tell the backstory here. Adam's on his way to an indie show where Jeff is on the show, friend of Jason's. So everybody's, Adam's trying to climb the ladder. You're trying to do your buddy a solid. The red and blues light Adam up. He gets pulled over. Where are you headed to? Sir, I'm sorry. I'm lost. I'm turned around. I don't want to be late for this wrestling show I'm booked on. Oh, are you a wrestler? Yes, sir. You wrestling anybody I know? Well, Jeff Jarrett's on the card. You know Jeff Jarrett? The guy in his uniform does a strut by the car, throws up the two fingers, lets him off with a warning. Let that be a lesson to you. If you're an independent wrestler driving through Tennessee, there's a chance Double J's talked his way out of a ticket. By all means, bring him up. Oh, he's going to beat me clean in the middle with a figure 4. Ain't he great? I mean, just lay it on thick.
That dumbass Alabama kid with speed. But no, my point being, I was going to tell the story. So 7-match card. Jason always has a hell of a card. Adam walked out. He just tore the house down. And I know folks at these shows been coming, some of them been coming off and on for years, but he walks up and goes, "Damn, Jeff, who is this kid?" And I look at him and I said, "Well, before I answer, tell me what you're thinking." He's like, "Son of a bitch, why have I not seen him? I kind of pride myself on knowing specifically independent scene and all this. I hadn't seen him." And I said, "Well, I'm glad. What do you think?" He said, "Well, I got to ask you, what the hell's he not doing on TV?" And I'm like,
right.
Okay, keep talking. And I'm just like, but he finished. So we're talking, and what did you like about him, and this and that. And he's like, "Hey man, no disrespect, but you can just tell he knows how to work with the people. He's young, he's athletic." Jesus, Jeff, he came off the top 3 or 4 times during his match. You ain't going to see that. He just kept gloating and kept going. And then he just kind of looked at me and said, "All due respect, Southern boys just know how to get it done." And I said, "Well, that's interesting you say that. And I don't want this to come across as bias, because A, it is, but B, there is a certain aura of understanding, and people say, oh, that's that Southern style." Well, I get that, but you also learn how to have crowd engagement, the walking and talking part. And anybody will tell you anywhere in the world that, yes, you got to have the high spots and connecting it all together, but you also got to have to know how to connect with the audience. And if you did see Collision this past weekend, and Adam was in the role of a babyface, to me, the cameramen probably soaked it up because they know what they're doing, but you got to zoom in, and Adam selling. And to me, out of the 4, FTR, Dynamite, Billingsley, and Priest, story told, but at the end of the day, there was immediate sympathy. Shout out Dax, Cash, they knew what they were doing. But I just got to give Adam a lot of credit, because just look, he's fresh. He's not really a baby face, but he just knows what to do. And back to the fan, I call him the fan, but Buddy that was at that independent show 6 months ago, he was saying exactly what I'm saying right now, without really knowing how to articulate it, that, hey man, this guy's got it. He was a star on this show that jumped off the page at him, so much so he had to come up and come tell me that's what, to me, there's so much knowledge in the fact that a longtime fan gets out of his seat, comes over, not to say, and I'd already seen the guy at the meet and greet, the VIP meet and greet earlier in the night. I'd already seen him, talked to him, we called up and all that, but he gets out of his seat, comes over, because I'm watching the matches at the curtain. And Conrad, that's when you just kind of know, and I'm sure you'll have any kind of sales or mortgage story and all that, but when a fan gets up, comes over, shares that, look, Adam, he don't know Adam. That's when you go, okay, there is something unique here that this guy, wrestling fan, longtime wrestling fan, saw. So if a longtime wrestling fan sees it, he's going to jump off the page. So Yeah, that's Adam. I did, Conrad, so much feedback from last week, which was very, very cool. And, it's such a moving target. I had a conversation at the wedding the other night, kind of specifically about the role of social media. And I said, in guys' careers, and I said, it's an ever evolving, ever changing process. But at the end of the day, it is, to me, by far, and roll it all under, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, put it all in one. It is by far the most valuable tool a talent has today, by far.
I do want to ask you, what are some of those intangibles? You said, hey, it took a fan, got up out of his seat and came over and talked to me a second time. What do you think? What are the little nuances? Cause I do think that's what we're talking about is it's 2 millimeters adjusting. So if there's an independent wrestler who's listening right now, he can get 2 millimeters better one way or another. And it might make all the difference in the world. What are some of those little intangibles? And I'm not saying this needs to be all about Adam Pearce.
I got it, Connie.
Okay.
This is why you're a hell of a podcaster, because you said the little bitty things. Oh boy. If my old man was right here, he would kick me out of the seat, Conrad. He'd sit down. He'd fumble for about 30 seconds, figured out how to put headsets on. And then he'd go, Conrad, can you hear me? I got to take, no, but he was, anal. Lawler too, some other guys, but don't be sloppy in the ring. Do not be sloppy. Don't throw a shitty punch. Don't throw a shitty elbow. Don't do anything that's not snug. Do it crisp. Adam, his athletic ability is something, and I'm not. I don't want to just focus on Adam, but he's
right.
But the guys that are really, and I don't want to say just good workers, but you've got to be aggressive. You got to be crisp. You got to have everything tight. Don't do anything. And some people will throw these talent will do things. Oh, that's a transition, or that's just a rest hold. That is the dumbest words in a rest hold. Well, who's resting, you or him? Like, what the? That is just, to me, so nauseating. Like, you're going to get in a rest hold by you calling it rest hold. I'm calling bullshit on you to begin with. But boy, I'm getting, you kind of ready to get on my soapbox. But you said the 2 millimeter. Don't be sloppy. Everything you need to do, and I mean everything, from the time you come through the curtain to the time you walk back through it, you need to think through it, and you need to be thinking to yourself, I've got to present myself in the highest quality that I possibly can. That is the mindset that I don't think people really digest that.
I had a conversation with a television wrestler. I'm not going to pretend it's a top guy. It's not, but it's a television wrestler that you see on TV pretty regularly in 2025. And he made a passing comment to me that we were at a show one day, and you could see there were young guys who were getting their opportunity, and they were spending a lot of time thinking about what combinations of moves they should show off and all that sort of thing. And I get that. And I get that everybody wants to put their best foot forward. But this fellow turned to me and he said, I hadn't figured it out yet. And I said, what do you mean? And he goes, well, they've got an incredible list of things they think they can do and that they've done before, but really they just need to be a master at like 3 things. And if they have those 3 things perfect, they can get booked on TV every week. Now, the person who's telling me this is someone who's booked on TV pretty regularly. They're not always on the upside. They're not necessarily winning a bunch of championship gold, but they're making a full-time living as a television wrestler who's like, you just need 3 things that you do really, really well. And the example he gave me was like a drop kick. Now, we all know, hell, there's probably 40 different ways you can throw a drop kick, but if you know you got a damn good drop kick and every version of it, just master that. And there's one. And then you've got 2 others. Now, I'm not talking about all the little stuff in between, but I'm saying actual moves, things you can do that might be gift worthy or clip worthy, or somebody's going to say, damn, did you see that drop kick? Man, he's got a good so-and-so. And I know Lawler was known for his punches. You were known for your punches, and you were very humble in saying that earlier, but do you think he's on to something that rather than having like, because if we think about it from like a menu perspective, Jeff, if you and I go into a restaurant and there's a 40-page menu, it's probably not going to be very good. But if we go into a restaurant and they got like 8 things, which combination of these 8 do you want? In and Out comes to mind. They've got a really tiny menu, but man, they're just hammering revenue because they've got this lane and they do it really, really well. Does that apply to wrestling as well?
Oh boy. If Scott Hall was with us, he'd say, Connie, preach. The era of TV now, to give up, man, we're getting into some kind of cool stuff here. The territory days when you're having to perform in front of the Louisville Gardens crowd every Tuesday night, you better know a variation of different things to kind of put it all together. But when we anyway, the 90s of WWF, I think in a way became into that. And yes, there was TV era and the enhancement matches and everything that went with the 80s and the Hulkamania and all that. But the shorter answer is you got to have kind of 3 signature moves that you can do that the people it becomes into it becomes part of your DNA of who you are, and it's very, very relatable. It's Scott, that's where I lost my train of thought there for a minute, but Scott and Kev back in the day, or Sean or whatever, but it's like, hey man, let's play the hits and then kind of figure out how to go home. And that was a simple way of saying, let's do the 3 or 4 things that the people are in tune with and accustomed to is. And see, that goes into a much, much, much bigger conversation, Conrad, in that, and now it's even more just because the way society is that you can't have the same match every week. I'm not saying that, but people got dialed into, oh, they've seen that. No, you've seen it. For the majority, the other folks haven't. I mean, it in that goes in every generation in that, in your mind, oh, I got to do something different. I got to do this. No, just what Conrad just said, do 3 or 4 things really good. And the way you get in and out of them can change multiple different ways. That's what makes it different. But get your signature spots down. And I mean, shoot, we're talking about Bryan Danielson, the yes kicks, the high knee. I mean, you can really take different, Scott Hall, he did the arm. I mean, we could go on and on and on and on. And I'm not talking about just the finish. I'm talking about your kind of your skill set of your offense. It becomes part of signature. It becomes part of the character. And that is the end of the day. People want to know you. How they're going to know you? Promo style, in-ring style, signature moves.
It's fascinating. I love this discussion as we're talking about the little nuances. Circling back, and we'll put a button on this with Adam. How much do you think having Bryan Danielson's endorsement has helped Adam's career, at least with Tony Khan? Like, knowing the relationship that they have, I almost wonder how much of success in wrestling is how good you are versus who's willing to vouch for you. Does that make sense?
And look, it damn sure ain't gonna hurt at all. But I think timing of when it's said, where it's said, how it's said, it all kind of goes together. But at the end of the day, and kind of we've all been down this road, the we'll call it the buddy system, and put this guy or that or this. Bryan truly sees something in the kid. There's no doubt about, and the way he sees something is, if you have a trained eye, yes, I do. Yes, Bryan does, and there's several other folks who do. But you can tell, and this sounds so silly, but you can just tell within seconds. Yep, he's been in the ring a few times. That just doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't. And then there's some guys you go, wait, he's only been wrestling X amount of long. Wow. Okay, let me see him in this environment. And so all this, but yes, it definitely helps. But I'm going to go back to And I've said it multiple times because I get more people coming up to me and kind of the resurgence of TNA and this and that and all this kind of stuff. And I just think, man, oh man, yeah, AJ, Joe, we could go through that whole list. But then the other day, who is the real lucky one? Me. The amount of talent we had in there that went on to where they at, and it's how much work a guy wants to put in. It all comes back to the man in the mirror, period. Every single bit of it. It comes back to so if you aren't happy in your career, and maybe if we are putting a button on this, if you're independent, let me just back out of this. Wherever you're at in life, if you're unhappy with your circumstance right now, look no further than the man in the mirror. Change that person, and then you will be a much happier and a more successful person.
By the way, Jeff Jarrett practices what he preaches. We've had that exact conversation with each other in our private time about one another multiple times. And you know, Jeff, there is a section of internet wrestling fans who've decided that they don't like me or my style of podcasting because I'm not often negative. And I understand where that comes from. But if I'm honest with you, I don't know that you and I have ever talked about this. I had a little bit of, I don't know, as we may say in the South, a come to Jesus meeting with myself years ago, because it was just me in a room off of my garage talking into a microphone similar to this with Bruce Pritchard. And he, you know, had his opinions about people. And at that point, he thought he was never going back to wrestling. So why not just let it rip, Tater Chip? And one of the people that he had an issue with because of some personal stuff that had happened was your dad. And so early and often he would mock your dad's voice and do the silly impressions and talk about the chicken salad and all that. And I'm just thinking, hey man, this is fun radio and it's entertaining and he does good impressions. Nobody's taking it too seriously. Who cares? But then I saw the world sort of adopt it. And I didn't like the idea that, hey, wait a minute. People might actually be taking our joke and thinking that that is really the way Mr. Jarrett should be framed. And that may have been Bruce's experience, but it sort of erased the opportunity for people or dismissed the opportunity for people really learn about how impactful your dad really was in wrestling, which is why I jumped at the chance to go to your dad's house and sit with him and interview him, because I wanted to have it on the record what his real contributions were in a serious, tangible way. And I'm saying all that to say, Bryan Danielson said one nice thing about Adam Priest, and the right people heard it, and it got momentum, and now he's given opportunities. And that is the very reason I don't say anything negative about a young guy trying or gal trying to make their name. Because if we have some fun at their expense and it is good radio, but that becomes the online narrative about that person, now you've sort of imposed a glass ceiling on their potential and their career and their opportunities. And I just want to be a net positive to wrestling. I don't want to be a negative. And I know that there are other podcasters who will look right down the barrel of the camera. This person sucks. Get them off TV. And it's like, everybody sucks at first. They got to get better. You know what I mean? Like, just to immediately dismiss somebody and cut their knees out from under them. And I get your dad is a different set of circumstances. He was out of the business. He was retired. It didn't matter. But that's the reason when you and I, hey, we watch the same shows y'all do. We probably don't have a terribly different opinion about some of the stuff that you don't like. But if we get on here and use our platform and then our fan base sort of doubles down on it and it becomes a thing and it becomes a part of the show, and that can only hurt. It can't help. So I just avoid it. Does that make sense?
1,000%. And that's, me and Karen have had these conversations. I've had different conversations with, I'll say, folks that I've known in the industry a long time. I've had different conversations about, man, Jeff, it kind of amazes me when I hear you and Conrad talk about how hated you were. Like they just didn't really know you. It just kind of all of what you just said in a big, and I didn't play, back then, I looked at the media, not with a harsh eye. It's just, I looked at them as critics doing their job and Jeff's going to be over here doing his job. But as time has gone on, I'm circling back to the social media, the power of it, and the power to literally transform lives for the good and for the bad. In that, sure, I could be super critical, and I'm going to say this due to my experience, and I'm going to say it's sometimes wisdom, but there's really no upside in any of it. None. Not, and I'm not saying for others, but for myself. Why do I want to spew poison? And if I'm spewing poison, that means poison's inside of me. So no thanks. No thanks.
SaveWithConrad.com.
My name is Rajiv. I'm in Sacramento, California. I came to Save with Conrad because I've heard Conrad talk about how he helps people all the time save money and the best route to go for getting some mortgages and finances done. And having heard so many different testimonials in the past, it made the most sense to go this route. We were in the market for a new house and we wanted to know what we could afford. So we spoke with Steve and then Diane to get through the pre-approval process to see what we could afford. And then once we were able to understand that aspect of it, that was when we were able to shop around for a house to get a mortgage through Save with Conrad. Everybody on the team was great. Everybody really explained everything fully to where it was more in like layman's terms to where I could understand it as someone not in the business or having shopped around for houses too many times. So being able to understand every step of the process and talking with everyone on the team about that was really, really helpful. And it made me feel really confident that I was going the right route. I would definitely recommend Save with Conrad to others. I know that sometimes people look at it and they go, oh, they're based in Alabama, what could they help me with? But I'm out here in California and they were able to square everything away and get things done really quickly, as opposed to sometimes even people out here don't move as quickly as the Save with Conrad team. So everything was really well done, really efficient, and I would definitely recommend Save with Conrad to others. My name is Rajiv. I'm in Sacramento, California, and I was able to get into my dream home with SaveWithConrad.com.
That's number 212, non-equal housing lender. SaveWithConrad.com.